In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
This DSA thing is real. It's on the rise. It is freaking people out. So much so that the Democrat Party is essentially saying nothing. They're going along with it. They may have no choice. If they had any integrity, they'd have something to say. We are joined now by the legendary political talent and strategist and master fashionista, if you will, Roger Stone. Roger Stone, I got to come up with a better word than fashionista. That's more feminine than masculine, but you wear great clothes and you wear them so well, and you got to go to rogerstonesuits.com because this is taking off. And it's going to be, I think you're going to be the next Ralph Lauren, Roger. I'm serious. How are you?
I'm doing great, Greg. And I agree with you about this sweeping change in the Democrat Party. It's abundantly clear that Chuck Schumer today is considered a dangerous right-winger among some elements in the Democrat Party. That's how far things have slipped. And this is very good news for the Republicans. It's not very good news for the country. I mean, I know this is also true of you. When I was growing up, both parties believed in God. Both parties were anti-communist. Both parties believed in capitalism. Both parties believed in free enterprise. Both parties believed in a strong national defense. The Democrats wanted to spend more. They wanted to tax more. Republicans wanted to spend less, tax less. But both parties were fundamentally pro-America. That is no longer the case. And we should have seen this coming when AOC defeated Congressman Joe Crowley, who was the chairman of the vaunted Queens Democrat organization when he got beat in the Democratic primary. That was kind of their first foothold victory. But now Mamdani and his allies, through the, I think, questionable legal shifting of money around between NGOs and nonprofit organizations and political parties, a lot of it, there's some formal complaints that have been filed against it, have taken control of the once great Democrat Party of Daniel Patrick Moynihan and Hugh Carey in New York. And it now demonstrates this victory in Colorado, also recent election in Washington, D.C., shows this is not limited to New York City or New York State. This is a nationwide phenomena. They are now the party of AOC and Ilhan Omar and that old windbag Bernie Sanders. That is the future of the Democrat Party. And from a Republican point of view, they're very beatable.
And it's interesting because this is the key moment for Democrats to do something about this, and they're not doing anything about it. I'm talking about the so-called mainstream Democrats. If you were going to really try to put this down, I guess now would be the time, and they're not, which shows me that they're scared and they're desperate and but they're still ambitious. So they are going to accommodate these people, and this will be the new Democrat Party because I've seen no substantive pushback to this. Have you?
No, and that's because they fear their Democrat primary voters. They realize that if they stand up and speak out against this, they will merely be swept away. So Kathy Hochul is a perfect example, perhaps the most unpopular governor in the United States based on a lot of polling that I'm looking at. But she's made her accommodation with Mamdani and he with her. If she had opposed him or spoken out against him, they would have run someone against her in the gubernatorial primary in New York, and she'd be toast. And she knows it. So these people are just kind of holding on, hoping, that the bear eats them last, which is, not a way to live, to be honest.
What do you say to the analysts? And I've heard some of them try to say, well, you got to look at this in perspective. Very low turnout in the summer. and these are already deep blue districts, right? So it doesn't really affect the mainstream. I don't agree with that analysis, but would you tell us why it's wrong?
Well, how do you explain what happened in Maine then, where a radical progressive ran the sitting governor out of the race? She got out of the race because the poll numbers, and this was before the summer, the poll numbers indicated she would have been defeated. I can't think of anywhere in the country where the Democratic Socialists cannot win. You can't point to any major victory this year where mainstream, what I like to call the corporate liberal Democrats, defeated someone from the progressive socialist, Marxist wing. So they can continue to delude themselves that this is just an urban phenomena, exists in pockets of the country. I just don't think that's true. As it plays out, I think, by the way, it makes it more likely in the end that they nominate Kamala Harris as their candidate for 2028, because she's the one person who could conceivably keep the diminishing corporate liberal wing of the party and the radical progressive wing of the party in one tent. Because let's face it, when you get right down to it, she agrees with them.
Wow. That's fascinating. You know, one thing that would come in handy right now, integrity, and also, you know, President Trump, he gets criticized. You know, he'll call the reporter stupid to their face if they say something stupid, and he's not afraid to also to get booed. I remember he got booed at the debate in February 2016. Can't remember why exactly, but I think he was coming after George W. Bush. And I say this is important because if you can take the heat from your own party, and if you can shut down little things that are stupid, you'll be ready to shut down the big things that are stupid. And Chuck Schumer and the others, they can't cope with this because that muscle isn't exercised. It's not flexed. They've never flexed it before. You know what I mean? Not in this way. They're terrified of younger, passionate people of color. I think that has something to do with it as well. And it's kind of fascinating to watch, especially a guy like Schumer, who wrote a book about anti-Semitism last year, and in this moment is just going to let this crazy mob take over. I guess they have no choice. If you were Chuck Schumer, if you were advising Chuck Schumer, let's pretend Chuck Schumer said, you know what? I can't handle this. I gotta come out and do the right thing, and I gotta save my party. What would you advise him?
I would advise him to speak out and then announce that he wasn't running again. In all honesty, he's not going to speak out because he's trying to survive, in my opinion. And he may not be able to survive a Democrat primary. But what's more important right now is standing up to this extremism, standing up to the anti-Semitism, standing up to the Marxism, because that's what it is, because they just want to redistribute the wealth of the American people. Look, Chuck has had a long and illustrious career. He's come a long way from the state assembly. Is he more interested in the country, or is he more interested in his own personal survival politically?
It kind of blows out of the water. Not that he was wrong, but Richard Nixon, I believe, famously said, you know, to get the nomination, you run far left or you run far right, and then in the general, you run right back to the middle. And there's no sign that these DSA people are going to run to the middle. This is who they are, and this is how they're going to be.
No, I agree with that. I think they believe that they can sell their vision of America, but that's also because they cloak their vision. In other words, I think many young people, particularly, who voted for Mayor Mamdani, they voted for hope and change. They voted for broad platitudes about free this and free that without any real focus on what that meant in terms of governmental control of their private lives, their personal lives, government control over everything, whether it's free food because we're going to do away with grocery stores, or whether it's free health care, or whether it's ultimately free housing. We just froze rent, which if I were a landlord, I'd be petrified. How do I keep up my properties? How do I meet all of the regulatory requirements to make a property rentable if I have no funds to do that with? So I think they believe, just as Obama sold the people a bill of goods, that they can do it again, promising us vaguely, we offer you the opposite of whatever Trump offers you, whatever that may be, without ever specifying exactly what that is.
Almonte's Key Food, proudly serving communities throughout Brooklyn, Queens, and Long Island for over 30 years. When you shop Key Food, you'll always find fresh products, great weekly specials, and exceptional personalized service. Visit at any of their Key Food stores at 8235 153rd Avenue, Lindenwood, New York, 935 Rosedale Road, Valley Stream, New York, and 6620 Avenue U, Brooklyn, New York.